Hey guys, finding the perfect gift for the food lover in your life is easy, thanks to Goldbelly. Goldbelly ships America's most iconic foods, straight from world-famous restaurants right to your door. So if you want to treat someone to Joe's Stone Crab from Miami, Franklin Barbecue from Texas, or desserts from famous foodies like Ina Garten or Martha Stewart, Goldbelly has you covered. Just go to goldbelly.com and for a limited time, get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's promo code GIFT.
Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipson. Today's guest is Brian Rzeppa. He is the author of the book You're Hired, A Guide to Working in Sports. Brian holds a master's degree in management and organizational leadership and a bachelor's degree in sports management. He has spent years working in sports in communication, merchandising, operations, and other roles in the professional sports world. His book puts a magnifying glass on the hiring process for managerial positions in sport and is fruitful for anyone with aspirations to work in sports. Brian Rzeppa, welcome to the Sports Management Podcast.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to speaking with you.
Looking forward to speaking with you too. So you are the author of You're Hired, A Guide to Working in Sports. So if you could just start by talking a little bit about yourself and how come that you wrote this book?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my undergraduate degree in sports management. And, while I was getting my degree and then after I had finished my degree, I had worked in minor league baseball here within the U.S. And so just kind of going through that experience of working to myself and then kind of going through the educational aspect of it as well. Something that always interested me is, what would it be like to run a team and, what would it take to actually run a team? And so, I have also written for various publications over the course of the past 7 or 8 years. So I've developed some connections that way. And, once I kind of got started with the book, the ball kind of just got rolling. And, so I expanded it to talk about how, coaches get their positions, how athletic directors, general managers, basically how these people get their positions and, what this day-to-day life actually looks like. So, for someone like me who, was looking to work in sports, I thought it was kind of, just interesting from that aspect. But then just for the sports fan in general, it's just kind of gives you some behind the scenes look at, how draft picks happen, how trades happen, how hirings and firings work. So, really, if you're just interested in sports, I think that's probably going to be up your alley.
Definitely. Looking for jobs can be difficult, especially in these times. So what have you learned from your research? What are the key aspects of the hiring process?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, it's definitely become a lot tougher now, within the United States, at least. Basically, minor league sports have kind of ceased to exist. And, it's basically just the top professional sports leagues that are kind of going on right now. So, a lot of those entry level jobs, like I worked myself, that, you would get this kind of real life background. Those are just not existent right now. So it makes it a lot tougher. But as far as kind of moving up the ladder and even getting your foot in the door, a lot of it's just going to come down to, and it's general advice really for any person of any field. It comes down to networking, and especially in a relationship-based business like sports, it's probably even more crucial. So, going, and again, this becomes even more difficult because, there's not networking events really going on right now. There's virtual and digital things like that, but I don't know, that's different for me. But, just really working on networking. So whether it's just a matter of, reaching out to connections on LinkedIn, for people just graduating, reaching out to other graduates from your school or from your program, going that way would be definitely one way to go about it right now. But I think that, along with obviously all of the negatives that have come with the government shutdowns and quarantines and things like that, I think this has kind of provided an opportunity to develop different skills that, you might not necessarily have had the time to do before. So even especially within the sports field, you see, digital media becoming more important, different communications avenues like that. So that would be a huge thing to work on, whether it be Photoshop or anything, communications related to digitally related. Learning skills in that is going to be super valuable. And, you know, just with how, even before COVID, just with how athletic departments were trending, you know, in high school and at the university level, athletic budgets are, you know, getting a little bit tighter. And so that means you're going to have skills in a number of different avenues. And so being able to develop those skills now where, you know, you might have had more time to do stuff in your personal life, you know, being able to develop those skills now is definitely a great thing that you can do for the time being until a lot of these things start to open up a little bit more.
You mentioned networking and its importance. The people interviewed in your book are all very experienced. Are these people you knew from before, or did you reach out to them when you were writing the book?
Yeah, so one of the major things was, I guess, really just with doing anything, and I guess this is just for a larger networking aspect as a whole, is that once you get to know one person, the ball does just kind of get rolling, and those connections just kind of keep going on from there. So to touch on that for a minute, you know, just thinking of networking, I know a lot of people become frustrated with, you know, I reached out to this person on LinkedIn and we had coffee and, you know, nothing really came of it. But I think that that's kind of a defeatist way of looking at it because, you know, while that direct person may not, you know, be able to connect you or be able to be that huge connection for you, they could connect you to 2 or 3 other people. And I mean, you really do need to, it needs to be an active skill that you need to work on and follow up and, you know, stay in contact with these people. You know, I was going throughout my own kind of sports journey, working within sports, you know, just having reached out to people and then following up with them. I was pretty amazed by the amount of people that were, I guess, taken back that I actually followed up because they said that so many people have reached out and made that initial contact, but there's just that follow-up was not there. So I think being consistent and, you know, trying to network with the contacts of, you know, your new network is something that's really going to help you tremendously. As far as, you know, writing for the book goes, there were a couple of people that I had like talked to before just for other stories that I had written. But for the most part, it was just pretty much just general kind of journalism work of, you know, working with marketing department or working with public relations departments within universities and within these different organizations. And that part was actually kind of easy enough, which, you know, that I guess would kind of be a surprise to some. But yeah, that definitely worked smoothly and definitely really fortunate for all the communications departments that I worked with and public relations departments that I worked with.
Yeah, it's really an incredible lineup with people from NBA, MLB, etc.
Yeah, no, I was definitely super happy with how it worked out. So, yeah, of all things that I could have complained about during the publishing process, that was not one of them.
Okay. In addition to networking, your book also mentions that the trend in sports management is heading towards hiring people with higher degrees. What's your opinion on that and the importance on education?
Yeah, I mean, obviously education cannot be understated. And, you know, a lot of the trends that you see throughout professional sports now and into collegiate sports too, is that you see a lot of MBAs, so business backgrounds within master's kind of studies there. But one of the more interesting things that I had found throughout, you know, my research for the book was that there was a study done that looked into the educational backgrounds of all of the athletic directors across college sports right now. And I was kind of blown away because, I mean, obviously there were those MBAs, the business backgrounds, but there were also people that had degrees in things like counseling, political science, like zoology was one of them. Just really nothing that engineering, you know, nothing that you would really connect to, you know, you would think this sports background, this business background. So I would say that, you know, for people that are looking to break into sports is that, you know, you don't have to have a sports management degree. Obviously it's going to help because you'll have just that background of educational knowledge and those different connections are a little bit easier to make. But I wouldn't be able to just rule anything out just because of your undergraduate degree. So I guess that was promising from that aspect, but I guess as kind of like a greater overall thing, you know, obviously having that background in sports management is going to be crucial. You know, you have the education that you'll learn is so specific to sports, and there's so many different avenues of sports that you learn that, you know, you're definitely set off on the right foot. And then, you know, going beyond that, you know, getting into the graduate level studies and things like that, it's only going to serve to help you. So I guess the overarching point is that, you know, you're not going to be completely limited without a degree in sports management, but yeah, you're definitely going to have a leg up.
Yes, I definitely agree with you there. The book is focused on general managers, coaches, and athletic directors, but I really believe it could translate to any position in sport. Is that how you see it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I mean, like I had said, I was not working as a general manager, an athletic director, or anything like that. So just going through my own experiences and having my own experiences to relate from, a lot of it would have helped me kind of going into it. I think that especially one of the bigger things I think that it would have helped with is that there is such a supply of people. There's so many people that want to work in sports, but I think that in many cases that view is kind of misguided about what the actual work entails. You think about working in sports and you think about working, one-on-one with athletes. You're going to the games, you're watching the games, you're doing these various things, and while it can be extremely fulfilling, there's tons of roles within sports that really are not related to sports in general. There's roles where you can just not see a game all year, and it's just, I mean, it's things like that you kind of just have to be aware of. And I think that everyone should probably be aware of the grind that's involved with it too. One of the people that I'd spoken to was the general manager of Major League Baseball team, and he kind of walked me through his day to day. And he got into the office at 8 a.m., worked until 5 in his kind of normal general business related office role, and then on game days was there after the game until game started at 7, and he was probably there in the office until around midnight. So you're talking about extremely long hours and at many levels extremely low pay. So it's just something that you really need to be in tune for whatever role that you're going into. And I think that I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think that I did a pretty good job of kind of giving that background of what it's really actually like to work in sports, whether it be, coaching or general managers or just, support staff at some level.
Yes. You've really done an amazing job with the book, and I like that you don't glorify the positions, but rather explain both the positive and the negative aspects of each role.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's never something that I wanted to kind of I don't want to guide people away from sports because like I had said, it can be incredibly fulfilling, and it's when you're part of a team that's winning and you're looking at it from that aspect, it can be a really great thing. And just even beyond the on-field aspect, just getting to know the various people within sports with similar mindsets to yourself, it's really a great experience from that aspect. But yeah, I think that with anything else, you have to consider the downside of, you're at the ballpark from 4 p.m. to midnight or 1 a.m. and, especially with social media now, you can pull up Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, whatever it may be, and you see your friends are out for the weekend, or, your family is meeting with one another, and you can have a huge fear of missing out just with how the hours of sports work. But, like I said, it can be incredibly fulfilling, but yeah, you've got to know what it's going to entail going into it.
And the sports business is unique in that sense that one day you're in and one day you're out, especially if you're a coach.
Yep. You got to be ready to move as well. And I think that that's something I touched on at one point in the book as well, is that, one of the coaches had gone through a string of working, I think, at like 8 different schools within like a decade. And I mean, it's tough to balance a family life with that too. You have kids in school. If you're married, it's taxing, and everyone has to be on board for it to work. So it's you got to be ready.
Your book released in November 2020. How has the feedback been so far?
It's been great. I know that putting yourself out there like that with anything is certainly a little bit nerve wracking, especially for myself. But it's been great so far. I haven't gotten any negative feedback, so that's been nice. But overall, it's been great to hear, and it's definitely been really uplifting. So going great for me.
I'm glad to hear that. Any plans for more books down the line?
Yeah. So after I finished the first one, I kind of figured that there's no way that I was going to write another one. But like with anything else, I gave myself some time after that. And so I do have a second one coming out next year at some point. The publishing kind of has been a little bit off because of COVID. But next year we'll be coming out with, it's called The Outliers, Being a Cultural Anomaly in Sports. And so for that one, I spoke to about 40 different athletes, and it's people that are underrepresented within their sports. So like African-American hockey players, Asian-American football players, things like that. So just kind of detailing the challenges that they had to overcome, and kind of trying to understand why that is, that these different groups are underrepresented within specific sports or even specific positions. And then kind of mapping out a path for how things can change moving forward. So yeah, it's safe to say I don't let myself have much downtime.
Looking forward to read that book as well. And inclusivity is a very hot topic in the world right now, also in sports.
Yeah, and I mean that was kind of my whole goal with the book too, was kind of just to figure out how to make sports more inclusive, because even throughout this book, I was pretty clear about the positive experience that I had and that so many people have had within sports. So it's an ideal world would be to include as many people and get to have that experience as possible. So it's definitely not a direct sequel, but it's a continued line of thoughts, at least.
Going back to your current book, You're Hired. If the listeners want to purchase one, where can they get it?
So the easiest place to find it is definitely going to be on Amazon. Just go to Amazon, search You're Hired, A Guide to Working in Sports, and should be able to find it that way.
That sounds great. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to mention?
Yeah. So I guess the only thing is that, if anyone has any questions for me about working in sports, about the book, about the publishing process, about, anything related to that, by all means, I'm very available on Twitter, on Instagram and all that. So just reach out to me. It's just at Brian, Brian, Rzeppa, Rzeppa. So they can just find me that way. And I'm definitely willing to answer anything that they have or anything that I'm able to answer.
I'm sure they will appreciate that.
Yeah. And again, I do really appreciate you having me on. It was great to talk to you.
Likewise. And again, well done. I really enjoyed the book, and I'm sure the listeners will as well.
I appreciate that. Thank
you for joining the Sports Management Podcast, and good luck with everything in the future.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for listening to Sports Management Podcast. Do you have thoughts or ideas about this podcast, or do you know someone that I should interview next? Please reach out to me on sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or visit my website sportsmanagementpodcast.com. If you prefer social media, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at sportsmpodcast.